Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of something moving around. Maybe some bones are cracking or some flesh is twisting. Your eyes wander around towards the doorway, only to meet this huge figure of a crawling body dragging itself towards you. You feel like running, but he's fast. His limbs are bending in all the wrong ways. Then, all of a sudden, a head comes rolling down from the hallway and clicks into place on its body. Congrats! The Jangly Man has found you. Creepy, right? That's the man we're dealing with today. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark has introduced us to a few fan-favourite ghosts like Harold the Scarecrow or the Pale Lady, and while we've talked about them in brief before, today we'll be taking a look at the Jangly Man from his origins in the books to the big screen. We'll take a deeper look at his story. Let's get to it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Oh my god, Ramon. Oh my god, what is that?
Who is the Jangly Man? If you've seen the movie, you already know this guy is a pure curse. His body moves in ways that just shouldn't simply even be possible. But I guess what makes him even more interesting is that he's not actually from just one story in the original books. Even though his character was created specifically for the movie, his design and presence come from 3 different tales. Jangly Man's origin in the books. Mitai Doughty Walker. This is the story that contributed the most to the Jangly Man's design and personality. It's about this haunted house where a head fell out of the chimney every night or so, the rumour goes. So no one dared to stay there. Then a rich guy decided to give $200 to anyone who dared to do it. There was this guy who took up the challenge only on the condition that his dog would accompany him, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, they say. As the night went on, the dog started to freak out and the boy started hearing a disturbing phrase, Mitai Doughty Walker, and just like that, a dismembered head came down the chimney. It didn't take too long after that for the boy to die out of sheer fright. The film borrowed this unsettling arrival and made it worse by having the Jangly Man's entire body come together piece by piece. What do you come for? This is a short and sweet scare of an old woman who was all alone by herself in her kitchen. All she said was, I wish I had some company, and apparently that's all it took for a rotting corpse to drop out of her chimney. The body stood up and danced around the room, declaring, I came for you, before the story abruptly ends. It's simple but terrifying, not to mention the Jangly Man's ability to move in unnatural ways directly from this tale. Aaron Kelly's bones. In Aaron Kelly's bones, a man named Aaron Kelly had just died and was buried by his family. They had even conducted a funeral for him, but suddenly that night, while his family was sitting around the fireplace, they heard an unexpected knock. It was Aaron, back from the dead. He sat next to them and casually asked, what's going on? Like, it's no big deal. No one can convince him that he's actually dead until his own rotting body gives out. While Aaron Kelly's bones isn't as violent as the other two, it contributes to the Jangly Man's unstoppable nature. How it all comes together. All 3 of these stories have something in common. The activity takes place at night, in a home, and with the arrival of an unexpected corpse. But as the story progresses, the element of separated limbs is introduced. The Jangly Man in the movie is basically a remix of these elements. Like, the grotesque way of assembling himself comes from Mitai Doughty Walker, his disturbing physicality and movements from What Do You Come For, and his resilience and refusal to stay dead from Aaron Kelly's bones. The film gives him a more defined role as one of Sarah Bellows' cursed creations, but his essence remains deeply rooted in the scary stories that have terrified readers for decades. Even for the stories, this man isn't a legend like the rest of the ghosts. He comes from folklore, which isn't really focused on reality, but rather explores traditional concepts. A little about the film. In Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, 2019, the Jangly Man is tied to the tragic story of Sarah Bellows, who lived in the late 19th century. To recap a bit, Sarah was a lonely girl from the infamous Bellows family, locked away by her own relatives in their mansion. Her crime was nothing but simply existing with albinism, which is a pretty common skin condition now, but for that time, it was unusual, and for that very reason, she was treated like a monster. Her family blamed her for everything every misfortune in town and tortured her for years by mostly locking her up in the basement. All Sarah had were her stories, which she wrote for the little children who came to visit her. Fast forward to 1968, a group of teens, led by Stella, finds Sarah's cursed book in an abandoned house on Halloween night. And the moment they start reading, the stories begin writing themselves, and their nightmares become real. That's where the Jangly Man enters. Unlike the books, where he's more of a campfire scare, in the movie, he's summoned through a version of Sarah's revenge for being wronged. In the movie, this target is Ramon, who is one of the teens caught in the curse. Role of the Jangly Man in scary stories to tell in the dark. The Jangly Man makes his appearance during one of the most intense moments in the climax of the film, and perhaps has the most screen time than the rest of the ghosts. He successfully becomes the physical embodiment of terror for one of the main characters, Ramon Morales, who is this troubled kid on the run with a tragic past. Ramon is considered a drifter and is on the run while trying to avoid being drafted for the Vietnam War. After Sarah Bellows' book begins writing his story, the phrase "Me Tai Doti Walker" appears on the page, which is a direct reference to one of the original stories from Alvin Schwartz's books. Sent as a supernatural assassin sent by Sarah Bellows' vengeful spirit, the Jangly Man relentlessly hunts Ramon through the police station and tears through all officers in his path. His victims are left helpless here because what will you break that has already been broken so much? He also appears to have some sort of intelligence. We see that when he speaks to Ramon in a distorted voice. Unlike some of the other creatures in the movie, for instance, the Pale Lady, who creates fear through slow creeping dread, the Jangly Man has a pure chaotic energy of violence. Ultimately, his role in the movie is to embody Ramon's worst fear of being labelled a coward, but by the end, he forces Ramon to confront that fear, and only when the kid finds the courage to stand his ground does he survive the encounter. Well, some of that, and also Sarah Bellow striking a deal with Stella to stop sending creatures. The Jangly Man, powers, presence, and pure nightmare fuel. First off, you can't kill this guy. Doesn't matter if you tear him apart, smash him to pieces, or try anything else. He just puts himself back together like some horrifying human jigsaw puzzle. The first time we see him in the movie, he literally assembles himself from a pile of body parts. It's not just creepy, it's a reminder that once you're in his sights, there's no escaping him. And if you think he's just some wobbly, stitched up mess, think again. This dude is strong. He snaps necks like twigs and throws people around like they weigh nothing. He's also fast, like way too fast for something that shouldn't even be moving in the first place. But what really sets him apart is the way he moves. His whole body bends and twists in ways that shouldn't be possible, making him unpredictable and impossible to fight. 1 second he's crawling, the next he's flipping over himself like some possessed acrobat. And fun fact, Troy James, a real-life contortionist, brought this creepy movement to life in the film, which just makes it even more unsettling. Marvelous verdict. So there you have it. Put it all together. His immortality, insane strength, and inhuman movement. And you've got one of the most terrifying creatures in scary stories to tell in the dark. Unlike some of the other ghosts, the Jangly Man isn't just here to haunt you. He's here to end you. And honestly, there's nothing you can do about it. Better start praying. But what do you think? Does the Jangly Man deserve his spot as one of the scariest creatures in the movie? Or do you think another monster stole the show? Let us know in the comments. And if there's another deep dive you'd like us to do, drop your favourites below. Until next time, sleep tight and maybe don't trust any disembodied heads rolling your way. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.